Welcome to humanity's Vanguard HFY and Sci-Fi stories, where humanity survives what the galaxy fears. The Dominion's most lethal assassin was sent to erase a single human mechanic. Instead of running, she poured him a drink and rewrote the fate of an empire. The Aurelian Dominion had expanded across 3 spiral arms without mercy or pause, and every conquest carried the same silent signature, a contract fulfilled by the Carexian operative known as Virix Null. His chitin-plated exosuit bore layered scars polished smooth by centuries of combat, each fracture a memory of resistance erased. No target had ever survived his designation. When Dominion intelligence flagged a lone human woman on Port Helion for unauthorized data inquiries, Virix expected minutes of work, nothing more. Humans were physically fragile, tactically loud, emotionally predictable. He located her in a maintenance cantina buried beneath docking pylons, where industrial coolant steamed through cracked vents. She sat alone at the counter, boots hooked around the stool, fingers stained with lubricant and carbon dust. No bodyguards. No panic. Just a glass of amber liquid and a tired posture that suggested long nights rather than fear. Virix activated his toxin filament and stepped into her blind angle, muscles coiling for the final approach. The kill window was perfect. Then she spoke without turning. "If you're here to end me, at least sit down first. You're ruining the atmosphere." Virix halted mid-strike, every predator instinct screaming anomaly. The woman finally faced him, brown eyes sharp with awareness rather than terror. She gestured casually to the empty stool beside her, as if inviting a colleague, not a sanctioned executioner. His thermal skin showed no weapon, no elevated heart rate. This was not courage, it was certainty. She introduced herself as Mara Ellison, systems mechanic by trade, investigative analyst by necessity. She explained, calmly, that she'd mapped Dominion mineral extractions on frontier worlds and traced ecological collapses to classified logistics chains. She knew why he'd been sent. She even knew his designation. When Virix demanded how, she shrugged and tapped the side of her data brace. "Your empire files everything. Humans just read what they're not supposed to." She pushed her drink toward him and explained fermentation, aging, the human obsession with controlled decay. Virix did not consume substances recreationally. Weapons did not indulge. Yet something about her tone, unafraid, unimpressed, fractured his operational flow. He sat. The stool creaked under his armored mass. The toxin filament remained primed. The universe, for the first time, hesitated with him. The liquid burned through his sensory filters, registering as damage before transforming into unfamiliar warmth. Mara watched his reaction with open curiosity, not triumph. She spoke of 14 previous attempts on her life snipers, sabotaged shuttles, data traps, and how she'd adapted to each. Not because she was special, she insisted, but because humans refused inevitability. Virix calculated probabilities in silence. Statistically, she should have died weeks ago. Instead, she outlined Dominion security flaws on a grease-stained napkin, predicting patrol rotations with unnerving accuracy. She wasn't bluffing. She was inviting him to see the Empire from ground level, through the lens of consequence rather than command. When she offered to pay him more to help her leak the data than the Dominion offered for her death, his processors flagged ethical contradiction. Carexians did not betray contracts. Yet as alarms echoed faintly above the station security tightening unexpectedly, Virix realized the Dominion had advanced the timetable. Whether he chose or not, his next action would redefine him. Cliffhanger. Dominion enforcers breached the lower decks, and Virix had seconds to decide whose blood would be spilled. Virix disabled the cantina lights before the enforcers arrived, plunging the room into a haze of steam and emergency crimson. Mara didn't ask why she moved, trusting instinct over explanation, sliding beneath the counter as plasma bolts scorched the air. Virix engaged without lethal force, redirecting shots into coolant pipes, triggering vapor clouds that blinded Dominion optics. His movements were precise, restrained, deliberately non-fatal. This deviation shocked him more than the attackers. Together, they escaped through maintenance shafts Mara had pre-marked weeks earlier, navigating crawl spaces too narrow for armored troopers. As they ran, she transmitted data packets in fragmented bursts, seeding multiple off-station relays. The Dominion would suppress some, but not all. Humans, she explained between breaths, never relied on a single point of failure. When they reached an auxiliary hangar, Virax sealed the blast doors manually, tearing control conduits free with his claws. Alarms escalated to evacuation status. The station trembled. For the first time in his existence, Virax was no longer acting under command, he was improvising. And the exhilaration terrified him. They launched in an unregistered courier craft, its hull patched with mismatched alloys and faith. Dominion interceptors pursued within minutes, their targeting algorithms calibrated for Carexian evasive patterns. Virax recognized the trap instantly and did the unthinkable. He ignored doctrine. Instead of outmaneuvering, he overloaded the courier's power grid, creating an erratic energy signature that mimicked reactor failure. The interceptors hesitated, recalculating. Mara used that hesitation to deploy a human invention Virax had dismissed as inefficient, signal noise generators built from salvage comparts. The result was chaos. Sensors screamed contradictions. The courier vanished into a debris field, silent and dark. As they drifted, Mara laughed not from relief, but from satisfaction. She spoke of humans as collaborative survivors, creatures who bonded under pressure and weaponized trust. Virax listened, realizing the Dominion's greatest error was assuming loyalty could be enforced indefinitely. When long-range comms confirmed her data had breached independent networks, Virax understood the scale of what they'd done. Empires fell slowly, but the first fracture was always informational. Cliffhanger, a Dominion kill order broadcast, echoed across the sector. Virax null reclassified as hostile priority. Safe for the moment, they repaired the courier in silence broken only by distant explosions as Dominion forces scoured the debris field. Mara finally asked him why he'd chosen her over certainty. Virax struggled for language beyond mission parameters. He spoke of emptiness, of centuries defined by obedience, of never being offered a choice before. Humans, she said gently, were terrifying because they offered choices even when doomed. They believed agency mattered more than survival. When Dominion dreadnoughts began locking onto the debris field indiscriminately, Mara initiated a risky maneuver using the courier as bait while transmitting a final data burst tied to Virax's biometric signature. It would authenticate the leaks as undeniable. It would also mark him forever. He agreed without hesitation. As the courier roared back to life and surged toward the blockade, Virax felt something close to pride. Not in victory, but in defiance. Cliffhanger, the courier jumped to hyperspace under fire, hull integrity failing, with no guarantee the engines would hold. They emerged battered but intact on the fringe of unaligned space, where Dominion law held no immediate reach. The data cascade triggered sector-wide outrage, sparking inspections, revolts, and economic fractures the Dominion could not suppress quietly. Mara collapsed against the cockpit wall, exhausted, victorious in the human way, knowing the fight had only begun. Virax monitored the aftermath through fragmented channels, watching fear ripple through Dominion command structures that had never planned for public scrutiny. He was no longer an invisible blade. He was proof of betrayal. As repair drones patched the courier, Mara offered him a future without contracts escort, allied partner. Virax accepted, not because it was logical, but because it was chosen. When Dominion bounty networks activated, he didn't hide. He studied them, adapted, and began dismantling them systematically using hybrid tactics neither species would have devised alone. The galaxy whispered new stories of a human and a monster who drank together and decided empires were optional. The Dominion attempted to erase the narrative, but humans replicated it endlessly, reframing the assassin not as a traitor, but as evidence. Evidence that even the most conditioned weapons could reclaim will. Virix trained resistance cells, teaching precision while learning improvisation. Mara broadcast from the shadows, her voice carrying across systems, reminding colonies that survival favored the stubborn and the united. The Dominion's strength, built on fear, proved brittle against curiosity and shared outrage. In quiet moments, Virix would taste that human drink again, still burning, still wrong, still exhilarating. He understood now why humans were feared not for their strength, but for their refusal to accept the roles assigned to them. They didn't conquer. They convinced. They adapted. They endured. And when they made friends, even monsters learned how to choose. The Dominion still exists, wounded and dangerous, but it will never forget the moment its deadliest weapon sat down with a human and listened. That moment fractured inevitability. Somewhere between a glass of fermented defiance and a napkin sketched with impossible plans, humanity proved its most lethal trait was not violence, but contagious courage. Virix Null, once a name spoken in terror, now stands as a warning written into Imperial doctrine. Humans do not break under pressure. They recruit it. They survive it. And if given the chance, they will teach even monsters how to rebel. Final HFY beat. Humans are not unstoppable because they are strong. They are unstoppable because they refuse to be alone if you stand with stories where humanity outthinks the darkness. Subscribe to Humanity's Vanguard, HFY, and Sci-Fi stories. The next legend is already hunting.